What up, ladies and gentlemen? This your boy SK the King coming back with another reaction video. And today we actually be checking out the new video by Modern Vintage Gamer on how Mortal Kombat 2 cheats against you. So let's check it out, man.
Now, when it comes to arcade games, it's no secret they are designed there to take your money. The more quarters that you pump in, the more profit margin the manufacturer receives. And the best arcade games would really pull you in by making you feel like that you were really good at the game in the first couple of stages, and then flipping the script to really ramp up the difficulty. And in some cases, the game would outright cheat. In 1993, Midway would release a sequel to one of the most popular fighting games of all time. Mortal Kombat 2, or MK2 as we will call it, was everything that the original arcade release had turned up to 11, and went on to become one of the most successful arcade games ever released. Its success would guarantee home console versions would release the following year on the Game Boy, Game Gear, Super NES, and Sega Genesis, releasing simultaneously on Mortal Tuesday, September the 13th, 1994.
There's no lie in that.
At the time, it was the best opening week of sales in video game history, with 2.5 million units sold.
Damn.
Mortal Kombat 2 was a massive success in the arcades. It grossed over $600 million in sales, with around 27,000 cabinets sold to arcade operators.
27,000,
that is a staggering profit margin. The game once again would feature digitized graphics, which were a significant improvement over the original, with that addictive Mortal Kombat gameplay, and of course, the blood, gore, and fatalities would also be a part of the game.
Big facts.
But new updates were introduced. New fatalities, new stages, new characters. Fans wanted more Mortal Kombat, and MK2 delivered, completely dominating both arcade and home sales.
They did.
But we're not here to talk about the different versions of MK2. Instead, in this episode, there's one part of the game that I'm not a fan of that's absolutely infuriating, and that is the cheating
difficulty.
AI.
That difficulty.
And this is probably a good part of why the game grossed so much money in the arcades. MK2 would straight up cheat and perform moves instantly that any human players simply could not do given their reaction times and the 3 frames of input delay.
Facts.
So let's take a closer look to show you what I'm talking about. If I launch the arcade version in MAME, and if I try an uppercut, you can see that the opponent, in this instance Raiden, counters my move and then performs a throw at exactly the same time.
That's crazy,
If you slow down the frames, you can see that I've clearly connected with him before he throws.
But they cheat.
Yet, my move has been completely nullified, but his throw is the one that lands. Or another example, if I try to forward jump kick against Baraka, he immediately, without hesitation, skewers me every single time.
That happens to me every single time.
No way to cancel the move. He simply knows what I'm trying to do seemingly, even before I've pulled off the move.
Facts.
In MK2, after the first few rounds, jumping towards a CPU opponent is a death sentence that you should completely avoid, and this is true for all characters in the game. But what about sweeps? Check this one out against Katana. This looks to be perfectly executed, right? Nope, she just picks up the character and throws me. The game makes you believe that you're not a very good player, but in reality, what's happening is the game is actually cheating.
I see.
So what exactly is going on here? The original Mortal Kombat release would give you a few rounds to get warmed up, and it didn't feel this cheap. In MK2, however, the first round of the game seems like it's a bit of a warm-up round where you can essentially defeat an opponent pretty easily, and most of your kicks and punches will connect without too much issue. But after that, the cheating AI will try to take victory from you every single round. If you didn't know any better, it almost feels like the AI knows your player movements as you're doing them and reacts during the same frame. As it turns out, this is exactly what happens. This is what's known as input reading. When fighting against a human opponent, the game's code will read your inputs and react to them instantly. Now, to be fair, MK2 isn't the only game that has input reading, many of them do, but it's what the AI does in response that makes the game incredibly cheap. So if you thought that you sucked at playing MK2, don't worry, the AI does everything to cheat against you. So as always, I wanted to learn more about the game and its AI from a technical perspective on how it works. Unfortunately, the source code for MK2 is not available to look at, but I did stumble across the ultimate MK3 source code for the Sony PlayStation on GitHub, which appears to be based on the original UMK3 arcade source. Now disclaimer, it's not MK2, but UMK3 is also incredibly cheap, and it's highly likely that it's taken some of that code from MK2 and applied it there.
That was a good ass game.
Included that though,
that was one of my favorites.
A few rounds of UMK3 on MAME, and yes, after round 1, the same issues occurs with uppercuts and jump kicks. UMK3 also introduced a combo system, and the AI can also unleash extremely fast combos
and
that
be mad cheating too.
Do.
It used to happen to me all the time in the arcades, bro. Oh wait, we gotta add 1 second, everybody. Yeah, but I could definitely relate to this, man, because as a kid, man, I used to always get cheated, especially like after the like 5th and 6th round. Like, it's tough, bro. You be spending a lot of quarters, bro. Alright, we back.
So we know how the game cheats, and we know that this is a big source of frustration for many a MK2 player, from the beginner, novice, all the way up to the experienced player. But let's try to understand how the game cheats and what exactly is going on. Now, before we dive into the code, it's important to know some terms that are used in the game. When it comes to midway games, the term drone is used to describe a computer opponent. The mkdrone.c file handles all the AI for a drone and each of their corresponding characters in the game. The AI itself is pretty basic. Internally, the code will use a variable known as diff, and this stores the current difficulty of the game. This value then is used in a random number chance that the computer AI will react to your move. Note that this variable diff is internal, and it's not the same as the actual difficulty level of the game in the machine's dip switch settings. Now this is specific UMK3 code, but for the first 3 matches, the diff variable will increase by 1. And if you make it to the 4th round in the ladder, then diff will increase by an additional 2. And if you make it to the 5th round and beyond, diff will increase by an additional 3. The highest value diff can be is 9. The variable diff controls how the AI reacts in the game. It also will help the player in certain scenarios. For example, if the player loses 3 matches in a row, then the diff variable is decreased by 1, making the next game, should the player decide to pump in more quarters into the arcade cabinet, a little easier.
They slick.
The term in the code that is used when a drone performs a counter is known as a reaction, and there are many scenarios where a drone will react to any move that the player is performing. The percentages of those reactions are based on a sliding scale. This variable here, rt_drone_reverse, is a list of values from 0 to 900. If the difficulty is 6 then this value returned is 700. This value is then passed to another function known as rand_per, and this essentially is taking the value 700 and dividing it by 1000, which means that there is a 70% chance that in the second match on the ladder that a drone will react to your move. If you manage to get to the 4th match on the ladder, the difficulty is maxed at a 90% chance. And this is where the CPU AI really starts to cheat. And note that these drone reactions are performed within the same frame. This also helps explain on very few occasions where an uppercut or a forward jump kick will actually land. The CPU AI also checks to see if you are spamming repeat moves and attempts to counter them. Note here in UMK3, as soon as I come in with a forward jump kick, the CPU immediately backs away so the kick won't connect, and this repeats every single time. The diff variable is what drives the entire AI for the computer. Another function here, toss_drone_check, checks if the player can perform a throw, but the function react_exfer_him is where the drone has a chance to react, once again based on that diff variable. If that variable is set high, then the drone will react more often. Another thing to note is that the default difficulty on MK2 in the arcade is medium. You can adjust the dip switch settings difficulty to be as low as very easy, but this is only delaying the inevitable. Essentially, the diff value will start out lower, but you'll always be at 9 by the time that you progress to the bosses.
That's
but
crazy,
even before
man.
the bosses, as you're fighting up the ladder, a diff value of 6 and above will start to become very cheap in the game. In order for the player to beat the CPU, it doesn't really take advantage of your skill. In general, if you spam jump back, the CPU will jump towards you to stay the distance, and then simply perform a high kick. Given all this, I still love MK2, and I still rate it as the best in the series.
Still one of the
But
good
like
games
many
of the
players
day.
back in the day, I felt like I was never good enough at the game, or maybe that my reaction times were too slow. And while in some instances that was true, the reality is the game simply makes it impossible to fight fair, and you just need to cheese through the stages to get to the end. That's a shame, as I feel like the gameplay and AI deserved something more advanced. But in conclusion, I will always have amazing memories of MK2. It was truly something special when it released back in 1993, and it's still one of my favorite arcade games of all time. So that will do it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I really do.
Yeah, so man, that was really good, man. So like I said, man, like as a kid playing this in the arcades, bro, you thought you was doing so good in the beginning, and then after that, it just ramps up out of nowhere, bro. So I was feeling like I wasn't good either. So it tells it lets you know that, man, gaming was different back then, man. It was very different. But for the people that actually did play Mortal Kombat 2, let me know how y'all think about this, bro. And like I said, if y'all like videos like this, make sure y'all drop a like, hit that subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. And this is SK the King signing out. Peace, and I'm out.